I want to jump right into our headline topic today, which is, of course, the Italian YouTuber Francesco Once Were Nerd Salicini, whose home was raided by the Italian Economic Police, and around 30 consoles, mostly retro emulation handhelds, were confiscated. This is freaking kind of wild. Salicini is being accused of promoting pirated copyright materials after showing off emulated Sony and Nintendo games in his videos, something that a lot of creators, including us, have done numerous times over the years. Authorities are claiming that Once Were Nerd is in violation of Article 171 in Italy's copyright law, a law that was apparently written in, get this, actually no. Oh, Luke, did you read it already?
Yeah.
He read it already. Okay, Dan, guess what year this law was written?
1905.
You know what? You're honestly not off by more than half. 1941. He's now facing a maximum sentence of 15,000 euro and, get this, 3 years in jail.
I thought it was an or.
Italian copyright enforcement is built different and has a history of strong-arm moves like having the country's internet regulator force Google to poison DNS to block illegal streams of soccer. The original complainant who brought forward the case will not be publicly known until the end of the initial investigation. But let's be real. We all know it's Nintendo. Though for legal reasons, we must say that we are not sure. Allegedly. Allegedly. Wow. So, man, is there ever a lot to unpack here? Because the line, from my understanding, and remember, the legality around emulation is not black and white and does vary according to the particular region and authority that you are subject to. So, like, there's definitely parts of the world where... Well, we actually just shot a video last week reacting to Indian setups. And Sam, who grew up in India, one of our thumbnail artists, also editor, he was basically like, I mean, yeah, that was pretty much the reason that PlayStation was popular, was because you could just get the games for like 60 cents or something like that. I forget what the actual math worked out to, but I was looking at him going like, dude, that's practically the raw cost of a blank CD. Like, what are we even talking about here? Like, you're not even essentially paying for the labor of someone to take the blank disc and put it in a thing and copy it. That's wild. And he's like, yeah, but that was basically what everybody did. So I'm not saying India's like that anymore. It might be. I legitimately don't know. But what I'm trying to illustrate is that depending on where you are, the enforcement and the laws around this stuff can be very different. So from a North American standpoint, as far as I've been able to tell, owning, like possessing and using as a consumer things like emulators and ROMs is generally regarded to be, but certainly not something that you would be fined or especially given prison time over. However, producing, circumventing digital locks, or distributing these copyrighted materials could be problematic if your profile gets raised high enough that somebody decides to go after you. The idea that you could just be sent like an emulation console from, one of these Chinese companies that produces them, just show using it and go to jail for up to 3 years? What?
That's a little ridiculous.
Like, this is a non-violent crime. Like, dude, I hate to be that guy because, like, it can be, but like the 2008 financial crisis.
Oh yeah.
Did anyone go to jail for any of that?
I don't think
We're talking about a pirated video game. I think like one guy like went to jail for a short period of time. The what says yes. Yeah, one guy from Citadel.
One dude. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So what are we even talking about? Like, I've never been to prison. Everything I know about it tells me that if your crime was playing a video game off of a ROM file, you probably don't belong there.
Well, he also spent a 30-month sentence, so less time.
Unflipping believable. Just goes to show you that it's not a question of how much damage has your crime done. It's a question of who you did it to. Okay, we have a few discussion questions here. Do you believe, this is a good one. Do you believe that we have the right as creators to show off emulated games? Does that stance change if you do or don't own original copies of the game? So, no, I don't think that we necessarily have the right to show off emulated copies of games. However, what I will say is that I do consider, generally speaking, us showing content on devices that can play it back as being promotional in nature of that content. So for a while there, I was getting a lot of pushback from some people internally about how we would play movies in our TV reviews, for instance. Like I would put How to Train Your Dragon from DreamWorks, or I'd put Encanto on the TV in our reviews of a monitor or of a TV or whatever the case may be, or projector. And they kind of went, hey, look, if Disney, or DreamWorks or one of these guys decided to come after us, like that would be pretty scary. And my response there has been, okay, look, fair use is a defense. It's not a well-established set of guidelines for what you can and can't do. But if we were to look at this, I think we would have a very strong fair use defense. We are doing no harm to the original content. We are not acting as a replacement for the original content. If anything, we are promoting the original content. What we're doing is highly transformative. Nothing that we're doing in a review of a TV replaces in any way the plot of How to Train Your Dragon. You know what I mean? I think that our fair use defense would be extremely strong, number one. And number two, they'd be crazy to come after us for it. Like, imagine being the guy at Disney that's like, yeah, these guys talked about how great this movie looks in HDR, and I'm mad. Like, so we're going to start a war with someone who is literally promoting our... And you know what's really crazy, though, is that kind of logic does exist. Like, I remember having a really stupid conversation with someone at... in the Intel booth one year at, I think it was CES, where they boasted on the little placard next to their upcoming platform that they could hit some number of FPS in some game. And I was like, guys, bit of an oversight. The game on the system, that's a different game. Like, you guys know that, right? Like, embarrassing. And they're like, yeah, we know, but those guys want us to pay like a huge licensing fee to show it. Now, that is a little different because in that case, Intel is clearly making commercial use of that software. However, I would argue that that kind of commercial use clearly benefits both parties, and it would be in the best interest of a game developer to have their game be a featured demo for like a hot new piece of hardware. This was back when Intel had products that people wanted. And so, when it comes to commercial use, yeah, the rules do change a little bit. But in general, I see a clear benefit to having your content featured. With that said, there is clearly no commercial benefit to, say, Nintendo, not picking that name for any particular reason, but let's just say Nintendo, to having their older content that you can't even buy be showcased on a product that literally pirated it. So I do think that defense falls apart a fair bit. With that said, I have made clear in the past that I feel that if I own a copy of a piece of content on one format, that I literally will lose zero sleep over my believed right to take that format and enjoy it, that license to that content and enjoy it in any way that I want. If I own a Super Nintendo cartridge for Final Fantasy VI, and I have that cartridge sitting on my shelf in my possession, and I decide to download a ROM and play it on my Steam Deck or my RG Ally or whatever, I will sleep like a baby.
Yeah,
I don't care. And where I end up in a bit of a grayer area is if I own, say, for instance, Final Fantasy Tactics was a game that I used multiple times to test older handhelds to see if they could handle PlayStation 1 emulation. It is a bit of a heavier game, especially when you get into some of the like summoner like effects and like the particles and everything. And if I, really think about it now, I own a disc. I own a license for the game. I consider it well within my right to play that game if I own a license for it. I have no desire to dust off my PlayStation 2 and pop it in the disc. I know it's a PS1 game. I have a backwards compatible PlayStation 2. Relax. I have no desire to do that. So I'm just going to play it on whatever I want.
You could have just said
showing it on camera, I don't know.
You didn't even have to say the number.
Yeah, but I don't have a PlayStation 1. I'm on the record as not having owned a PlayStation 1, so who knows?
Yeah, but you could have just not said a number.
I know, but I have a PlayStation 2. It's in my attic. Look, what do you want from me? I'm not gonna pull it out to play Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm gonna just play the ISO. Sorry.
I know. I'm just saying you didn't have to do the whole disclaimer if you just said PlayStation.
So with everything I've said, do you think we have the right as creators to show off emulated games with or without owning a license, a copy of the game? What do you think?
If you don't, with or without, you're saying?
Yeah. Like, what do you think? Like, should we be allowed to show emulated games? We've done it.
That we don't own?
That we do. That we don't. Anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally in the defense of, like, education is not a thing that should be stopped in most cases. I'm only saying most because normally I would say ever, but then I thought like, cooking meth and stuff. That's probably not good. Generally, I don't like the black and white here. Generally, I would say if you own it, it's clearly above board, and if you don't own it, it's not something that I think I would want to go after somebody for. But I could understand there being a legal framework for that, and I think that would probably be fine. I
mean, what if we applied this to like another form of art, right? Like, let's say that let's bring it home, right? Like, let's say that it was a T-shirt design, or let's say that it was some other kind of intellectual property. If somebody's YouTube channel was basically showing off low-cost clones of our IP and explaining to people how they can get our T-shirt design without paying for it, would you think that's cool?
I don't know if this makes a ton of sense, but no, I would not think that's cool. But if they showed it in a generic way, I would think that's cool.
In a generic way? What do you mean?
Like if you showed somebody like, here's the process. You have this graphic on your computer. You can scan some graphics somehow. I don't know. You can take this picture that you have in some physical format, or you can take this item that you have in a physical format. You can scan it on a scanner, and this is how you can get it onto a shirt. Awesome.
But what if
obviously that knowledge could be used to rip off one of our shirts? But that part doesn't bother me. I think it would only bother me if it was like, look, do this to this shirt and steal it. But then it's like, oh.
But that's that's kind of the parallel here, right? Like they're basically.
I don't know what type of content they made.
So they're making content showing off like pre-pirated consoles that are just loaded up with ROMs that you pay a fraction of the price for. and they just come with a bunch of copyrighted games on them. And someone has said LTT would 100% take that down like we've done already. I don't know what you're talking about. Legitimately, I actually have no idea what you're talking about. We've ourselves ordered counterfeit LTT merch and shown it on our channel. Anyway, get a legal department, hire some lawyer. No.
I think it would depend because, like, are they okay? So they're showing this off, but are they trying to sell it?
I mean, they're reviewing it. I think that there's an implicit promotional element to doing a review that encourages in some way the consumption of these goods. And remember, I'm not asking if you think it's legal, right? Because we're not lawyers. Don't tune in. This is not a legal podcast. What I'm asking you is, would you think that's cool? That was my phrasing. Would you think that's cool? Are they being cool if they do that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's that cool.
I don't think I would think it's cool.
Now, someone did bring up in the chat, and I think this is a really good point, that one of the foundational arguments around emulation and game piracy, especially of retro games, is game preservation. A lot of the time, these are games that cannot be obtained through legitimate means anymore. And I've made my position on that pretty clear as well, that if I have no legal, legitimate way to obtain something, I sleep like a baby. You know, like if I lived in a territory, if I lived in Egypt or Libya or something, and I wanted to watch Western content that just simply wasn't available via streaming or physical media in my region, I'd sleep like a freaking baby pirating.
Yeah, I don't mind you acquiring that at all. I do that now sometimes.
Yeah. So unique username here goes, okay, you know, does your situation change somewhat if we make the parallel the same? What if it was a shirt we no longer sell? That is 100% still RIP. And when I say RIP, I don't mean rest in peace. I mean our intellectual property. And it is our choice whether we produce it or not. Now, in some cases, I can tell you that I wouldn't care. I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. We don't make it anymore. Like, go for it.
I do think I agree with that.
But, however, and look, like, the world is gray. The world is gray. Here's a shade of gray. What if it was a design that we specifically produced only a limited quantity of, that our customer, part of our agreement with the customers who bought it, is that only a fixed number of these will exist? Well, then I'd feel like I have to protect it. Because it's not about me at that point. It's about maintaining the exclusivity that people paid for. People paid good money for it. And you might not agree that they should pay for that, but they did do it. And that was their expectation.
Here's a weird angle. What about a recreation? What about a faithful but imperfect recreation?
I mean, realistically, I can tell you guys straight up that it's not the kind of thing that we would pursue any legal action over. I think that there's a spectrum of how cool is it or how not cool is what they're doing. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I think jail time is absurd, obscene, ridiculous, and should not be legal. It should not be legal to put someone in jail for playing video games. There's even, like, because it's beyond reasonable doubt, right? Like, have we crossed the threshold of beyond reasonable doubt? Could he have conceivably thought, possibly, maybe, that these games were licensed? Maybe. I don't know. Luke, never underestimate human ignorance. If I just buy this console, I don't know. It's not impossible. Yes, you know better. Obviously, I know better. And he probably knows better.
Yeah.
And he probably knows better. But remember, beyond reasonable doubt, you have to prove he knows better. You have to prove he knew. So,
what do you think? What do you think about my question? What if it's a recreation of one of our products? What if someone Northern Lights? You know, I don't think we sell Northern Lights anymore. What
like
if someone takes?
Oh, Northern Lights is the desk pad. Did we have a Northern Lights shirt?
Didn't we?
I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway,
whatever that one was called with the mountains.
Yeah, if somebody like redrew it and it was almost like a tribute or fan art. I've always been very supportive of any kind of tribute or fan art. We've even gone as far as like promoting it on the show and on socials
in
and
my
stuff like that.
opinion, if it's going to be an exclusive item and you didn't get it, and this is not the company's stance, but in my opinion, if you did a recreation that was your own, you didn't just like literally copy paste. That's cool, in my opinion.
But in the case of these ROMs, in the case of this emulation, that's not the case. So what I was trying to get around to is that while I strongly disagree that anyone should go to jail over the theft of supposedly, tens of dollars or hundreds of dollars of video games, especially in the world that we live in, I do clip this. Go ahead. I do see why Nintendo's upset about it. I can see their perspective. I think they need to just take a bit of a chill pill here, though, and hopefully they have the good sense to not pursue jail time over this. Hopefully. If anyone from Nintendo is watching, get this up the corporate ladder. Sending people to jail over gaming on emulation devices is not a good look. If it's Nintendo.
In Full Plane Chat said, don't assume laws in Italy are the same as in Canada.
I didn't.
We never did.
Never happened.
At no point in time did that happen.
But in general, you should the fundamental principle of innocent until proven guilty, my understanding is pretty well established in at least the Western world as something we should aspire to at the very least. Does it always hold up in practice? No. Not here, not anywhere. But that's something that we should generally aspire to.
Yeah.
Oh.